This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Thanks, everyone, for downloading the latest edition of Wanna Bet. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy, Phil. We have been on his gambling journey, and right now, it's all basketball, baby. I know he's putting in bets on hockey and putting in bets on golf and things like that. Let's check in with Phil and see how he's been doing. What's up, friend?
John, how you doing, buddy?
It's doing okay. The bets have been all right, up and down a little bit. I hate to say it. It's the first time online I bet against Michigan State, and it's fine. I mean, you get it. It's strictly business. You're putting in bets, but you feel a little bit dirty. I took them to lose, obviously, to Purdue, and they came back. They battled in that second half, but Purdue took it down. So I'm up a little bit on the week. Lost a couple of small bets here and there, but up overall for the week. And it's a good time, man. It's fun to kind of be involved. I definitely wouldn't be watching as much college basketball as I am if it wasn't for the betting. And obviously, you know what? It's kind of safe to say, which like we've said in previous episodes, betting against the Pistons, betting against the Red Wings, betting against the Spartans, if you just strictly just bet against them, you're going to probably come out ahead more oftentimes than not.
You know what's funny, and I'll sort of pivot on that. I actually liked the Pistons last night, and they looked good through the first half. Because I just put a small 3-teamer together, and I watched them like just basically implode to lose that game. I mean, fortunately, I didn't have much on the parlay, but it's like Chicago is missing a couple key guys. Markkanen's been out for a while, so I was like, they should be able to win by a few, especially with the way they've been playing. But like you said, I guess I should have stuck with your philosophy there and just bet against them.
Unbelievable, too. Blowing an over 20-point lead, wasting a solid performance by Jeremy Grant, 43 points. I know that must be the toughest when you're like, all right, this is good. You look at halftime, you peek in a little bit. All of a sudden, you see Chicago whittle it away little by little. And for the Pistons, it's really weird because they're playing a lot better, but they're so young and inconsistent that it's, that's a tough bet now because on paper, they look like a team that's struggling, but they've played a lot better. So I'm staying away from them. So for you on a Wednesday night, took the Pistons in a parlay, they didn't hit. Did you hit any parlays this week earlier on Monday or Tuesday?
No, I actually hit one last night, though. I took USC, I believe what were they, minus 10 and a half, and I took Drake where's that at? I can't find it right now, of course. But that was the only parlay I hit this week. Lisa, Drake minus 4.5 and USC minus 10. I hit that. I actually got a little lucky last night. Right when I was getting ready for bed, I seen the money line in the Golden State Miami game, and like Golden State was plus 500. I thought it was for the quarter, so I bet like $5 on it, and I didn't realize that I had actually bet the entire game. They were down 15 at half. And I don't know if you know, but they came back. They actually went to overtime and won the game. So a little luck doesn't hurt in some spots.
Yeah, that's good. So right now you're sitting pretty much even as you were last week because you got a bunch of bets out for this weekend. You told me you're sitting about $780.
Yeah. Like you said, I think I was up to about $850, and then like you said, I got some bets in on golf. I mean, there's some I got laid ridiculous odds for the one parlay. Like I bet $5 and I can win $9,000. Like this one parlay it's just 5 guys. You basically pick the winner of the group, and if they win, like you said, I put $5 up, it's worth $9,420. So I mean, doing little things like that, it's not going to hurt. I know it's a long shot, but once in a while you got to goof around a little bit. Just something small.
Yeah, the funny part is I've been winning picking the games. I've been struggling with the money line. I thought based on how the Michigan State-Purdue game was going, just threw a little small bet on the under at 138 after the half, and then all of a sudden they both stop. It's like so weird. The trends you see in the first half, like you said, then all of a sudden they both stopped playing defense, and then both teams were hacking each other late, and they racked up the points. Should have been an easy pickup, but It went over and hit exactly at 140, and I was like, "Get out of here!" So I'm trying to avoid those in-game over/under bets because I'm not good at those. I'm really good. I'm well over 60% picking just straight up the games, but the money line, the over/unders are killer, man.
And you know what? I've noticed that because I've been with the few games because I got ESPN Plus, so like some of the games will be on. I can stream them on the app, and I've noticed that like I don't know what game it was last week. They were down like 12 with like a minute 20 left, and they're sitting there trying to like cut back at the lead, and it ended up costing me one of my overs. And it's not the first time I've seen that either. Like. So, I mean, that's something where I guess I could do a little more research and like watch what how aggressive the team's going to be to try and get back into the game. Cause you figure like, maybe in the pros, I could understand it. And, like in some spots, but like when you're down 12 with a minute left and if the team's even somewhat decent shooting free throws, like, normally a bad play, you're not really going to get back in the game. But yeah, those over-unders have been sort of like been tricky in those spots.
Yeah, so something I've seen online, which is funny. And it's fun because I like the fact that you just randomly will say, hey, there's a boost, make a bet here, you're guaranteed not to lose. And then people, what they do is they start chiming in and giving their opinion. And that's fine. You can have a differing opinion, but if someone's just offering you a free betting tip, if you're online and you see someone saying, hey, or you have someone like us or another radio station or another podcast that's giving you betting advice and it doesn't hit, you don't go and complain to them. You just, hey, you just figure it out yourself. It's the best prognosticators are around 57%. So I think one of the faux pas people do is they get way too involved in their betting and feel the need to comment like, hey, I joke around. Obviously, I was like, thanks, Phil, for the free 50 cents. But hey, it was still a win. I'll take it. I would have liked the $25, but it's fun to bet and things like that. But don't be one of those kind of people that if you get a wrong tip that you go and complain to the person, because bottom line is if you're taking the advice of somebody else to make a bet, you probably shouldn't be betting at all.
Well, yeah, dude, there are so many sites out there and there's so many people doing their analytics, running their simulations, trying to predict these games. But you know what? When it comes down to it, like you really can't ever predict these games to a certainty because the human element comes into play. Like you look at like Gardner Webb and Radford, something I'm watching because Gardner Webb should basically get like the floor. Radford should off the floor with them. But Gardner Webb beat them by 10 a couple days ago. They're playing again tonight. And the line started out on that game. I believe it was on a Tuesday on the 16th. The game started out where Gardner Webb was getting like 10.5. Well, the line for the Thursday game is going to be, it's only Gardner Webb getting 4. So do I want to go with some recency bias and take a chance that Gardner Webb's going to repeat their performance? Or do I want to take a look at the overall record and take Radford when Radford clearly on paper it seems is the better team? Like you said, there's nothing you can really do because in these spots, it all comes down to the human element and you can't ever really predict that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And you start to see people, and now this Detroit sports betting group on Facebook is wild. People are trying 9-team parlays. They're asking all the time, should they cash out? I'm of the opinion, and I want to get yours, because I think it's the most common question that people see. And we've talked about it before, but I want to get your sense of it now after a month and a couple weeks. I think now we've been at this 5 or 6 weeks. These sites obviously give you the cash out option so that if you're ahead, potentially they can limit their exposure and kind of give you a win, but also at the same time not give you the full win if something unusual were to happen. What's your strategy? Have you cashed out? I've done it. I took a quick $20 win when it was, I took Purdue. And boom, Michigan State came back, and I was like, well, they upped it a little bit, so they upped the cash out offer, so I took it real quick, because you always have that feeling like, oh man, Michigan State could come back, they're desperate, they're hungry, so I bet it early, got the win, and called it a day. But What's your thoughts on cashing out? Do you think it's something people should do, book wins as they build their bankroll, or should they, if they really believe in something, I would have won maybe $15 more if I held on and kept the bet with Purdue in the money line. But they were offering something really good. I just bet like what, $30, gave me back 45 real quick.
Yeah. So, and once again, this is all going to be player dependent. So there's some people who every time I go on, I see let it ride. You could have a 17 parlay. You could have bet $5 on it. You could be getting paid out like $1,600, and they're offering you like, I don't know, maybe $1,000. So you bet $5, you're guaranteed $1,000. Do you really want to risk $1,000 guaranteed money to maybe hit one more game when you've already done that much work? Now, me personally, I'm a little more risk averse than a lot of the general population. So I'm not, if I know that I've already I sort of kicked myself for the golf that happened a few weeks ago. Remember we were talking about my golf bets? I could have basically cashed out all of them and profited on every one, and I didn't get out of anything. So it ended up costing me, at least I had $30 in bets. I could have probably got out for like 75, which would have been double my money. But I wanted to play the long game, and it ended up biting me. So I think if you feel strong enough that what you've got going is right, and you've done enough research, then stick to your guns. But if there's some spot where you got a little lucky and that extra leg came through, and you've only got one leg to go, depending on how strong that leg is, I might just cash out and take the guaranteed win, because at least I made some money off of my bet instead of just pissing it all away.
Absolutely. So you said you got up to 850. You said now you're at 780. So you got some bets out there. So you're down just a little bit. What cost you the most this week? Were just some parlays, a couple bets that didn't hit for you?
Yeah, you know what? This week Sunday I got hammered. Like I got hammered pretty bad. So I couldn't pick anything right at all. And like you said, I think I got down to I was down to like 700 actually. So I hit some bets, and I was trying to do the math on the next field goal in game bets, and that didn't end up working out exactly how I had calculated. So, I mean, like you said, there's going to be spots where you're going to run cold for a little bit, but I'm not exposing myself to going broke by any means, especially from where I started out at. You said we've been doing this for probably a month or a little over, and I started with $20 in my account, and I'm up to 787. So I'm personally never going to drop below 500. I'm hoping that I can, make some good choices and run it up now and double it up in the next month. Especially with March Madness coming up. I mean, there's going to be tons and tons of action. I gotta keep an eye on all the college basketball is going to be a real big deal these next few weeks, especially with all the tournaments starting up. I mean, there's definitely some money to be made, but I've got to make sure that I'm doing proper research.
Yeah, and so what are your thoughts on Michigan and Michigan State? A lot of people are talking about, is this the end of Tom Izzo, that he lost a recruit? He saw, obviously now, probably what we're going to see is the 22-year streak consecutively of being in the tournament end, and then you look in Ann Arbor, and Juwan Howard has got things rolling. I mean, he's got his team playing well. That win against Wisconsin was legit. That cost me a little bit. Obviously, I hedged and limited my loss. But, I mean, you look at it and you see Michigan playing well. And, obviously, Wisconsin put it to him at first. And there was, a little bit of a rust factor. But then they come back, and Michigan, after the long layoff, they just put the pedal to the metal on the road against a solid Wisconsin team. And I was like, oh, my God, of course that was going to happen, is that once the first half ended, Michigan put the pedal to the metal, and they dominated in that second half, and Wisconsin had no answer for Juwan Howard's team. I like what I'm seeing from Juwan Howard. It's got good recruiting. X's and O's are getting better. Michigan State's guard play is atrocious. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you and I probably could form a backcourt and compete with Foster Lawyer and whatever the hell he's doing. I was like, man, I can't believe that Tom Izzo whiffed so bad on Foster Lawyer. It's among one of the worst guard group that he's ever put out there, and it's not getting better. It's sad to see, unfortunately. It makes it easier when you've bet a ton of money against him, but it's disappointing at the highest level because Tom Izzo's always put together solid rosters, but right now the momentum has swung to Juwan Howard's side.
Yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, with just all the circumstances going on surrounding this year, State had their little bit of an issue with COVID a little while back. I'm not going to go ahead and just want to pull the plug on him after just one season, especially with everything that he's done over his career. Now, if he wants to step aside because he's getting a little older or he doesn't feel he's got it, well, I mean, then you can't really argue with that. Juwan, from his career at Michigan to his career in the NBA, while he might have not been like that superstar, he's been a good role player. He's been on a bench. He's learned enough. He's got enough basketball knowledge to where what he's doing with Michigan, they can be successful for years to come. So he could probably help Harbaugh out on the football side of things and get that program straight, because the Michigan football team they couldn't do anything right. And Juwan looks like he's got things going in the right direction for sure. I would be really surprised if Michigan didn't end up winning the Big Ten tournament, just with what they've been doing. From just overall. So,
would you consider throwing some money down on it? Maybe Michigan to win the Big Ten tournament. You know what?
I'll take a look at the odds, but I mean, like you said, you saw what Wisconsin, Michigan beat up on them. Was it? I can't remember. Was it a month and a half ago? And then for Michigan to be off all this time, and like I said, they're not practicing. There's no organized team practices or anything like that. So for Michigan basically to come out after a few weeks off, have a rough start, and then come back against one of the better schools in the country and get the win, it shows where the program's at.
Yeah, so, right now you can get odds to win the 2021 Big Ten tournament. Michigan plus 250, followed by Ohio State plus 300, Illinois plus 425, Wisconsin plus 450, and Iowa at plus 500. If you want to take a gamble on Michigan State, plus 1,000. So I think it's Michigan and Ohio State, the top two betting favorites at this point to win the Big Ten tournament. I think it's a fair bet. Michigan, it's not bad.
Yeah, I want to know why all the hate towards Iowa all of a sudden. Like, am I missing something? Like, and we were talking about this off air. Like, the fact that the line on that game shifted from Iowa being 2-point favorites to now being a 2-point dog, I want to know what's going on, because Wisconsin, they said Wisconsin's a decent team, but they haven't done anything like spectacular, and Iowa's had some pretty big wins the last few games. So I'm just curious what's going on. I actually wouldn't mind. I mean, I don't think Iowa's going to be able to. They're probably not going to win the Big Ten tournament, but I mean, they could still make a little bit of noise in March Madness. So I mean, you could bet them for a couple rounds should be all right, at least on the money line, I would assume.
I wonder what it is that's causing especially with Garza. I like Garza's game. It's a solid game too.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I know there's been a shift away from the big guys, and everybody's trying to go smaller and get and shoot a lot of threes. But when you've got a big guy that talented, like, you got to find some way to work your system around him and let him utilize his talent. So,
okay, now on the Action Network, on the Rutgers-Michigan game, it's an interesting pick here because Rutgers is at plus 375 on the money line. He said, I had this game as Michigan minus 6.5 and Rutgers as a plus 265 underdog. So grabbing the Knights at plus 375 is too good to pass up. And he suggested picking Rutgers on the money line. Crazy.
I mean, if he thinks that Rutgers is going to beat them outright at home, I mean, that's the thing. What determines what good value is? So if you put $100 up and Rutgers, happens, well, good for you. But I mean, is that a pick that you want to make long term? Where right now on DraftKings, Rutgers is getting +9. I'd rather take the +9 and bet a little more on that than if I'm going to go that route, because you can't get. I wouldn't really be betting against Michigan at home right now.
Right.
Even with the time off. But if I can get 9 points, I mean, even if it's minus 110, you still can make some money if Rutgers is really playing that good enough to cover that line. Like you said, these good value picks, and I understand a lot of it's like from an analytics perspective. Just because the line shows that it's a good value doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate into real money in real time. So I would rather take the points and make sure that I guarantee some profit instead of betting that big line just because the line looks nice. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that at the same time, it's real interesting because you go to one site's analysis and it has one thing, and you go to someone else's. It's really fascinating, the level of analysis. And on the Action Network, they have for Thursday's game, they believe in the bet to pick Iowa plus the points here to take it. And I think that it's interesting that they started off as a favorite, and then now they're getting points.
Yeah, I actually, because of the issue last night with Ben Simmons going out, I've actually got an odds boost, and I'm actually going to put money on them while we're on the air right now. So I was +2, they're -110. So I'm going to boost that. I'm going to boost that. I got a 20% boost, so it'll be +109. So I'll just put. I mean, even if I bet just $10 on it, I'll get 21 back.
Exactly. So you use the bonus there, and you're betting Iowa to win it out straight, or with the points?
No, with the points. Like you said, to be honest with you, a lot of these games, there was a technical error, of course.
Right, crash in the system.
Yeah. They didn't want to take my bet. Got to wait. Now, unfortunately, sometimes I've done this before. We'll take a look at that later. But something I got a technical issue there, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it.
Have you considered any other books? Have they given you any deals or anything like that? I mean, a lot of the bets are fun in regards to what they're doing, but it's pretty similar to everything else in that you get long shots, you get to boost odds and things like that. So I think I really like the user interface and how easy it is to bet on DraftKings. It's probably the easiest one I've seen online.
Yeah, I went on to MGM, the BetMGM site. Not a big fan of it. The first couple days, they had huge issues with their interface and the network. I couldn't get on to try and use my free bets. I lost them. I didn't even get to use them because I don't know if it'll last. The time frame elapsed. So I won't go back onto that site anymore. FanDuel actually, because my account had been active for a while, they wanted to start charging me $2.99 a couple months ago. So I just flat out told them to cancel my account. So you got to keep an eye out for those things. It's stuff like that. Now, I don't know if DraftKings has anything like that. Their customer service, anytime I've had an issue with a bet being paid out or some discrepancy, I've gotten follow-up pretty quick. Like you said, user interface is pretty good. I really haven't had any problems with them. So
okay, now
go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think DraftKings does a really good job. The alerts are clean. The interface is definitely super easy. Push button parlays are easy to find. That's just the best way to do it, is to put forth an easy platform that the average user can take advantage of. And absolutely, so far, I think the DraftKings book is pretty solid, pretty fair.
Yeah, like I said, I've liked my experience for the most part. I wish I could stay away from the freaking blackjack tables, or else I'd be doing really good. So,
all right, before we get to see how you're doing in blackjack and poker, right now, as of Wednesday, February 17, you can make futures bets. You can get Baylor +300 to win the entire NCAA tournament. Gonzaga is the next favorite, same odds, +300. Then the next favorite is Michigan at +700. Villanova +1100. Michigan to win it all. What do you think? I think the two betting favorites probably should be Gonzaga and Michigan. Gonzaga can just put the hurt on people. Is it worth it? I mean, Michigan at +700, that's pretty fair to put $5-10 on that.
Yeah, even 25. If you put 25, you're going to get what? So 107, 800. So what? Quarter of that, you get $200 back. I mean, if you just put 25 out there, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Like you said, I'd like to see a couple more games, but from especially that comeback, on Sunday, it's something to seriously consider taking a look at.
Yeah, I think that the top three are pretty straightforward: Baylor, Gonzaga, Michigan, Villanova. So it'll be interesting to see as we move forward how Michigan shakes out and how Michigan State as they fight. I think when you look at Michigan State's schedule, pay close attention. There's probably going to be a lot of losses that get racked up in the next few weeks. So definitely pay attention there and maybe look to get some value in terms of making some futures bets on Michigan to win the Big Ten and Michigan to have a successful run in the NCAA tournament. You been hitting the card tables?
I've been playing a little bit on Poker Stars, but we all know how that goes sometimes. Like, I was up to like, I only put 20 in there, but I was up to 50 and then I'm back down to like 35, just a little bit up and down, some run bad and some moves, making some bad moves. So it is what it is. It happens from time to time. I'm waiting for the M Coops are starting and the main event is March 24th. There's a $300 buy-in. It's a 2-day event, 15-minute blinds, and 100,000 in chips. So it's the structure built for somebody like myself. I've got the ability to play, but I can also be patient. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
What's the lowest buy-in on Poker Stars for that tournament?
I believe the lowest one. Let me log in there real quick, but I believe the lowest one's like $10.
Oh wow!
From what I've seen. So I mean, they're actually running spinning goals for $3, where you can actually win a seat right into the main event. So I'm actually pulling it up right now. I want to see if they got the MCoop sites. No, they don't.
So you play at PokerStarsMI.com and then the app.
Yeah. There's some $100, $50, $20. Yeah, it looks like 20, 25. Are the lowest stakes right now. So, I mean, but there's a lot of guaranteed money too. Like, I think it's over $1 million in guaranteed money, but that $300 buy-in is definitely where there's a high roller event too for 500. And there's two bigger events for the M Coop 31 on February 28th is 250. I think it's got the same structure, 50,000 chips, 12-minute blinds. Looks like it's going to be that 1 day or 2 days. It looks like it's a 1-day event, but they said, I mean, some of these deeper structures where you get a little bit of play, because the play I've seen, of course, is just, I mean, it's just everybody's not really making some decisions that you would do if they were in optimal spots, if you know what I mean.
So what was the biggest mistake you made? Was it just chasing a little bit, or what'd you do?
Well, no, like I said, you know what? Like I'm just playing the spinning goals. Like I said, I was just playing the dollar spinning goals just because, like, in those situations, you really got to learn how to manage your stack and where to put it in and where not to call off at. And a lot of times, like, people are a little more willing to gamble. Like I said, I understand it's a dollar, but I'm more trying to make like the best decisions I can to try and give myself an edge so that I can put myself in a position to win the tournament. But said there's going to be spots where I think I bluffed. I made a bad bluff in one spot where I shoved a river when the board paired, and a guy called me off because he had top pair. So I mean, but those are things, especially in the smaller stakes, that you can't really you can't really try because, they're not as susceptible to, be moves being put on them.
It looks like I had an account with a little bit of a cash balance, but it doesn't migrate over. I got to start a new one.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So that's because it's actually a completely different site. That's still dealing with that would be like Poker Stars, which the rest of the world uses. We can't have access to that just because of all the things that went on with Black Friday in the DOJ. So these offshoots of Poker Stars are just specific to each state. So we can't even have gaming in between us, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Las Vegas, just due to all the interstate regulations and whatnot.
Yeah, that stinks. I wonder how much I had. I don't even remember. Probably like $5. So that's crazy stuff. All right. So anything this weekend that's caught your attention on the NBA lineup, something that you could say, okay, I think that has good value. I'm not going to go into your golf bets because they're a little bit wild. Anything this weekend on the docket that really caught your eye on the NBA or college basketball schedule?
Well, tonight actually, the Lakers in Brooklyn. the Lakers are only giving them 2, which, I mean, that seems to me, and I understand the Lakers are shorthanded. The Lakers are minus 2.5, but I know that they're missing Anthony Davis, but Brooklyn's without KD again. I mean, Kyrie's supposed to play. Now I've heard a lot of simulations are saying that the Lakers are going to barely win, but I just think in spots like this, especially with Montrezl Harrell's definitely better than any center that Brooklyn's going to put out. I think the Lakers can take advantage of their size and utilize that. I think they should be able to cover 2.5 for sure.
So your bet for Thursday night would be the Nets +3?
No, I would take the Lakers minus 2.5 right now.
Oh, the Lakers to cover. Lakers -2. The Lakers to win by more than 2.5, huh? Well, even without AD, you still think that with what you saw with how Harden can get hot offensively with Kyrie returning, you still think the Lakers are going to win without AD?
You know what? It all just comes down to the Brooklyn doesn't have a big man that can match up with Harold. When Harold gets down into the paint and he gets to be the bully, he can put up some points. So I'm actually going to look to try and get him into a lineup tonight, just because he could probably sneak out like a 30-40 point game just by getting 20 points and 10 boards. So, I mean, and that's something that Brooklyn really has. They've not had an answer at all since they got rid of Jared Allen at center, and centers have just been beating them up. So, I mean, the Lakers from the last few games that I've watched, they're not really they don't really fire away at the 3. So if they can really pound the paint, I don't see why they couldn't win by at least 4 or 5. Now, Harden's been playing really, really well, especially since him and Kyrie solved that situation out. But Kevin Durant's the leader of that team, and with him being out, you can see that Harden and Kyrie are basically the 2 Robins there. So Harden does his thing, and Kyrie can get hot in spots, but like I said, especially with the Lakers being at home, I'll take my chances with the Lakers tonight.
Okay, make sure you follow the Detroit Sports Podcast Network on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. If you've got an interesting parlay, I think the Facebook groups are great. Thank you so much for sharing in the group. Thank you guys for being an active member of the podcast community, downloading. If you like what you've listened to, hit the subscribe button and leave a nice 5-star review anywhere at all that you listen to your favorite podcast. Just type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and when you hit the subscribe button, our daily content finds you, and you can check in on Phil's gambling journey. Even week, not too bad. He likes the Lakers. I'm thinking a little bit more of the Nets on Thursday, so it'll be interesting to see next week when we check back in. Definitely pay attention to Michigan and Michigan State as we move forward. Thanks, Phil.
All right, John. Be good, buddy.